Customer Commerce Podcast, where technology's fast and biz is a blast.
In life and in business, time is precious. It's why customers stay or leave and why businesses succeed or fail. We're here to give a voice to everything that makes business, whether as a customer or as a CEO, easier and more rewarding. Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast. Let's dive in. Welcome, ladies and gents, to episode 8 of the Customer Commerce Podcast. I'm Jess, your host, and while the last 2 weeks we have featured some guests, including Mr. David Breyer, who is here with us now, we are back with the three amigos. Joined with me is Michael Linzar, CEO and founder of Store Connect, and David Breyer, the branding extraordinaire. These two are very different individuals, but both extreme in their ideas, always shooting to the moon, beyond actually, in everything they do, and have hit some pretty incredible targets along the way. So it's always a privilege to have this half hour with them both once a week to poke their brains and provide some helpful tips and knowledge. Whether you're a small business owner looking to start your own business, or you're just fascinated with the behind the scenes of running an e-commerce venture, these short and sweet episodes have something for you. So let's dive in. Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
G'day, mate. How's it going? All right?
G'day, not too bad.
Yo, what's up? How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing?
It has been a few weeks. I've kind of missed you both. I've missed our little,
Yeah,
powwows.
last time I talked to you, I think I was in London. Maybe. I don't know anyway. I'm in Florida now. I've lost track of time and
All
space.
three of us are in different time zones all the time.
I know, it's ridiculous.
It's pretty cool, but it is a little bit of a mind spin. So Tell me, in the last 2 weeks, I want to hear from each of you. What's something that you've learned? David, you go first.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, actually something that I've learned, and it's very, very interesting. It seems to be kind of, I saw it on a, like sort of a little micro level, very specific to certain social platforms. And now I've just seen it being blown up to the point where even Gary Vaynerchuk, I think, just posted either today or yesterday about this particular strategy. And that has to do all about the importance of commenting on social media as an exponential multiplier. I mean, he goes even to the point where it's almost outperforming and overshadowing the actual posting of content itself, because you're engaging in those conversations and the amount of eyeballs that are seeing it are exponentially. So that's very interesting. And with that is also the factor that not a lot of people really dial into. How do you comment? Do you just go, hey, great, terrific, which is useless. I wouldn't even call that a comment. It's really a matter of how do you actually add value? How do you engage? How do you amplify and add to the conversation? And then literally what happens is it starts to it's kind of like if you went to an actual networking party and you just walked around and shook everyone's hand. Great to see you. Hi, great to see you. Hi, great to see you. That would not be a very meaningful way of networking. But if you actually engaged in conversations and actually were interested in them and actually had that give and take, and it was substantive, that is something that I'm seeing like more and more practically every week, certainly over the last couple months, but certainly over the last couple of weeks for sure.
That's cool.
It's actually really interesting, the analogy, because it's all everything's coming back full circle to you got to communicate with people. What do you know? But like if you went to a social party and all you did was walk around and open up your laptop, carrying around an iPad, and when you walk up to something or someone, the first thing you do is go, hey, here's the first top 10 tips for blah blah, and you're walking around giving people content constantly, you wouldn't establish any relationship. You got to get into that communication. You have to chat with people meaningfully. I actually just did that last week. There was a post by somebody. Sorry, Jason, I can't remember the name of the podcast. Yes, I can. E-commerce Edge. And this guy, Jason, is a B2B e-commerce consultant. Now, Store Connect is direct to consumer, but we help B2B also do direct to consumer. And really, I realized something with B2B actually, and this is actually, I'm on my third thing that I've realized this week already, and I'm only one sentence in. But the B2B, I think, is actually a misnomer, because you never sell to a business. You always sell to someone. And B2B companies that aren't adopting a D2C strategy where they are treating their customer, their consumer, as the contact at that business that they're selling into, are going to be left by the wayside from those companies that are treating their B2B customers like a direct consumer relationship, and building that relationship and creating that activity and creating that conversation, and this speaks to David's commenting line. Anyway, this guy, Jason, I commented on his post. He said something about all these B2B software, and I said, yeah, what about Store Connect? And we just got into a conversation, and then he said, I'd love to talk to you on the podcast. And 2 days ago, we did a 1-hour podcast. It was fantastic. We were just riffing on everything and going off. But that's a really classic example where a single comment on a single post has now resulted in me being on another podcast, for an hour, talking about the complexities and the challenges of everything. But very, very important. It's very good.
Wow, that's very interesting that opportunities can come from the commenting, because you hear more about DMs and messaging and that private, but even for me, I honestly wouldn't assume that, that's going to come from a comment, because of, I guess in my generation, it's like, oh my God, you look amazing. Wow, that's so cool. Wow, well done. It's not really conversational. However, I've noticed myself when I go on social media, I click on the comments to see the comments of people's on videos. Like, that's become almost weirdly a form of entertainment now. Like, people repost comments because of what people say, because people are interested in people.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating how that's become a form of entertainment.
When you DM someone, you're taking from them time.
Yeah.
So whether or not you earned it or not, by DMing someone, you are taking from them attention, right? They have to give you some attention. Even if that attention is ignoring you, that notification still comes up. They're still going to see it. It's still going to be in their world for however many seconds. And that DM is a take of attention, right? Commenting on someone else's post is a giving of attention, and you are thereby helping promote their content, and you're not asking anything in return. You're giving, right? And I think that's probably the key thing that Gary and all these other social geniuses are on. And it's true, in a social circumstance, you're at a party and someone says, I'm a blah, blah. You go, wow, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that. You don't immediately launch into, well, I'm a blah, blah. It's, or you don't immediately launch into, can I show you my pitch deck? It's like, it's just different.
And there's two other little side notes. One is that there actually was a guy when I started my career in Manhattan, in New York, early in my career. There was one guy who was famous for, literally, he'd show up at the kind of like the industry networking parties, whatever like that, and he would famously, you'd just be like, seriously, he would give you his card, shake your hand, and give you a very, I call it a little bit of like it's a little bit of a kind of like a Hollywood kind of, hey, how are you? Kind of a little bit of that kind of vibe. But he made sure to give you his card, and then almost before you even had a chance to reply, he was on to the next person to do the same thing. And it was just like, and it was just very shallow, very odd. But the other side, and here's one other little side note I just noticed today, specifically LinkedIn, when I was looking through the feed a little bit earlier today. And what it was, it actually noted as I was scrolling down, someone in my network, blah, blah, so-and-so, commented on, and then this other post of someone that I actually didn't know. I didn't necessarily know. But all of a sudden, now it gives that a little bit of validation, a little bit of social proof, and a little bit of relevance. All of a sudden, well, if my buddy is now all of a sudden, so LinkedIn is doing a little bit of a reward. So they're actually rewarding us for commenting. So now all of a sudden we do that. There's one more way that we've actually opened the door to being visible and on people's radars.
Wow. There you go. I'm learning something right now. So that can be my learned thing. That's awesome, David. And
Yeah.
Michael, what about you? What have you learnt recently?
Oh, mate.
Mate. Mate.
Mate. I don't know if I've learned it, but I think that there's something freaking awesome happening in Australia. If you are an Australian, you will know the name Bunnings Warehouse. And if you're American and you have children, you will know the name Hammer Barn from Bluey. And Bunnings Warehouse is a big, what's the equivalent in the US? It would be like maybe Home Depot, but a bit more on the hardware and side, than Home Depot. They don't sell couches or anything like that. It's just, wood and lawnmowers and screws and drills and everything you need to do any sort of handyman job. And they're massive through Australia. They have a jingle, and you can Google it quite happily.
Warehouse.
Jess actually auditioned for the jingle, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Bunnings Warehouse. Do, 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 do. Yeah. Anyway, it's everyone Australian knows it. It's just known. Crazily enough, this TikToker called I'm going to butcher their name. I'm sure Kyla, I think, is the name. Rewrote it into a hip hop jingle on TikTok, and it just blew up. All of these Australians are just viewing this TikTok. It was getting all of these views, becoming viral. And then someone goes, we should do a rave, a Bunnings rave. And then Bunnings reply back on the thread going, we'll bring the decks with a smiley face because, they build decks. Anyway, this thing's just taken off on its own. It's now Peking Duck, a very famous band.
Yeah.
Sent back on the TikTok, replied back saying, do you need a DJ? And then this really famous DJ goes, I'll do it. Anyway, there's hundreds of thousands of signatures. Peking Duck have made a whole mailing list that you can subscribe to find out when the rave's happening. It's going to be happening. Like, there's comments on the threads going, is there going to be a sausage sizzle? So Bunnings is known for sausage sizzles. You go there on the weekend and some not-for-profit is, giving you sausage. I take my daughter there all the time. Pretty much every weekend we go get a sausage sizzle. She loves it. But it's just like an institution. And it's really interesting that and I know this is right up David's alley, and I'm going to send him the link to the post because I'm sure he'll do his own content on this on a branding point of view. But the branding on this is just phenomenal. They have managed to extract a brand within Australia. They're not the only hardware store in Australia by any means, but no one really knows the other. Like, all the other hardware stores are now marketing themselves as the other hardware store, right? It's really pretty ridiculous. And yeah, just the power of a really good jingle that becomes a cultural phenomenon that then gets adopted, co-opted by someone. And, Bunnings, there's copyright in that. They could have slapped it down and said, you can't do that. And instead, they went with emotion. And now we've got hundreds of thousands of Australians waiting for a Bunnings rave. I mean, are you serious?
Makes me so proud to be Australian. It's the most Australian thing ever. And I want to be there for it. I want to experience the first rave.
It is really creative, and wild. I'm just looking at the article on the website here. We'll post it with the thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I want to know when it is.
There's a TikTok of Peking Duck standing outside of a Bunnings, replying to it. Let's make the Bunnings rave happen. Bunnings.
I love it.
And yeah,
anyway. that would then, it brings so many different audiences together because Peking Duck is huge in Australia, and it's young generations. Then you have the older generations, you have the families. Like, Bunnings now have they've just kind of got into the younger Gen Z now, if it's on TikTok, and
that's right.
Brilliant.
And apparently, like Domino's, Uber, Capilino Honey, they've all gotten on the bandwagon on this.
Wow.
And so now there's, going to be pizza at the rave, and there's going to be transport to and from the rave. And anyway, it's just
Amazing.
Classic Australian, really.
But I think there's an amazing lesson there, which is, I think culture rewards that sense of, throw caution to the wind. Let's freaking have a party now. And if someone's going to be kind of, whatever, weird or overly proprietary, when it's like, excuse me, this is a celebration of you. This is not an insult. You're not being thrown under the bus, but someone could have gone really bizarre and go, well, how dare you color outside the lines, but they were smart. And I see more of that being celebrated and rewarded. I think the upside risk way outweighs the potential downside if someone's going to go, oh, well, blah, 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 because they'll look stupid. The ones being punitive will look really dumb.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I think that's a perfect segue into the real customers, because I was looking at this. I was actually listening to the voicemail, and it's very Australian. The voice is very Australian. So I say we get straight into it. What do you think?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so I go to my local Officeworks to get a canvas print made up from a holiday photo on my iPhone, right? So I get there, but then they direct me to the self-serve, so I could do it by myself. So I say, can I give you the photo and you set it up like you used to do? I give you the photo and you do it all. And no. You just go to the self-serve. So they point me over to the self-serve and set me up there. I mean, everything's bloody self-serve these days. Coles, Woolies, Aldi, bloody Officeworks. Anyway, it takes me a while. I have to use QR codes and log into their Wi-Fi and etc. And so after 3 or 4 goes, I finally get it done. And then I get this message that'll they'll notify me in two days' time. Anyway, so 3 days later, on a Saturday, I've heard nothing. No messages, nothing. So I give them a call to see what's happening, but all I get is a recorded message advising me of their open times and their address. And for any other information, to call this number for their customer service team. I thought, cool, okay, I'll speak to the customer service team. I've got my receipt here. So I call the number, but I get a recorded voice. Advise me they only work Monday to bloody Friday. This is Saturday. So I have to drive in to ask them if my canvas print is done yet. I have to drive in there. I can't call them up. So where the hell is the customer service? I mean, any other shop you could call up and ask.
Oh, I think it cut him off.
Sorry for the cutoff, but oh my gosh, what this? Yes, real customers, be human. I mean, the guy. This is just a terrible cycle of action from walking into the store and saying, "Can you help me?" And the answer is no. Just go over there and do it yourself, you peon, because we're too busy for your help.
And Officeworks is pretty famous too.
It's very famous. And look, I don't know if it's that one store or they were also in the news for some other random thing a couple of weeks ago, which wasn't great, a religious discrimination case or something. But,
gosh,
it's this idea that, like in the Real Customers book, that the first chapter is be human, right? We got to reestablish this human connection, and there's too much of this get out of our way. I think there was one retail store recently that's reintroducing, they're calling it the slow lane. And I'm serious. They're calling it the slow lane, but it's for people that want to have a checkout, with a person. For people to talk to, not having to scan your own stuff and do your own thing. But yeah. And then everything's got pre-recorded messages and so on and so forth. You see, the problem with the pre-recorded message, it's not that you have to work 24/7. That's not the problem. The problem is that Officeworks as a company is a 7-day-a-week shop. Like everyone knows, you can go there Monday through Sunday, every day of the week, maybe not Christmas Day, but pretty much every day of the year, you would expect Officeworks to be open. Good Friday, Easter Monday, those sorts of things, no. But generally, they're just always open. So if your store is open, answer the phone. If you've got a customer, you can't sort of have it both ways. Anyway, that's my thought. I think this guy definitely deserves a Steve. I hope he left an email address so we can post it.
Oh, he totally deserves a Steve. I will say, and I agree 100% with Michael's point of the fact that businesses, number one, they exist to help. Now, how they help and in what area they help is just, that's their area, that's their niche, that's how they make things. But I would like to propose to the world that help become an acronym, which is How Entrepreneurs Love People. That's what I would like to propose that as a global. That's what
I'm
HELP
clicking
should
to
stand
that.
for.
How entrepreneurs love people. That's awesome.
I love
And
that.
it's true though. Businesses are there. You are the business exists to serve a need, right? And that need is what the customer is paying you for. The customer is giving you money not because they like giving you money. They're giving you money because they believe that what you've got is going to change their life for the better.
But here's the real red flag that's really insane. Why is it that we're amazed when somebody's nice?
Yeah, right.
Now you know the world has gotten a little screwy. Because wait a second, we're surprised when someone's nice. We should be surprised when someone's not nice. Not nice has become the norm. Someone actually being kind, being interested, looking at you, asking you a question, asking if they could do anything further for you, and just anticipating what you might need next is the exception. It's like, why are they being nice to me? It's like that's weird.
I
That's
have
very
a question
true. And
because I
this Officeworks
feel.
thing could have been. Sorry, yeah, I think this Officeworks thing could have been fixed much more easily. You know, they had a phone number that you could call. The phone number was closed. Not only that, but when you called the phone number, it told you to call another phone number. So that's just a waste of time. The guy had his receipt. What they should have is on the receipt, it should just say, track your order, scan this QR code or visit this short link, and you can just open up on your webpage. It should not require any login or anything like that. And it should just say your item is up to blah and go from there. I mean, he's already logged in with his Wi-Fi and he's uploaded his photos. They probably already have his phone number. They could have sent him a couple of SMSs saying your canvas print will be ready Monday, not 2 days' time on a Friday, and then it's shut over the weekend, you know? So there's a lot of things here that could have been done that would not require setting up a 24/7 or a 7x8 operation of help desk, which is incredibly expensive. You could have just notified them and given them the information. And I read this just recently, that people get a lot less angry if you tell them the bad thing that's going to happen, right? If you don't tell them anything and it's a surprise, they're like, that's horrible. But if you say, look, you're doing this on Thursday, it's a 2-day turnaround, and it's not going to be ready till Monday because no one works on the weekend. Well, okay, I mean, thanks, it sucks, but at least I know. Then he's not wasting his time on a Saturday calling whomever when he could be replying to the Bunnings rave TikTok.
Exactly. And I was thinking, as you were mentioning these points, like, and this gentleman also added, and I've had my parents and even my like grandparents, they've all said, like, in the last maybe 10 years of, and maybe even myself included, like, I wish it was how it used to be because it was more obviously personal. What do you think was missed between, you know, let's just say something like Woolworths or a generic kind of supermarket. They went from, you know, checkouts all lined, whereas now you see one checkout and the rest are empty and the self-serve is right there. That's just an example. But in terms of overall business, what do you think has kind of been missed in the transition from going to that interpersonal relationship with customers to a lot of self-serve, a lot of automatic, where things are faster, but there aren't as many common sense ideas, like you just pointed out, Michael, of have an automatic, you know, someone can just scan this and then it can show you, rather than just call this number. What's the miss point that some business owners or managers are missing in that?
Failure to distinguish the difference between the world of the business and efficiencies there, with looking and then asking the one additional question, which is, will this efficiency be will it add value? Will it contribute to the experience, and will it actually be beneficial to our customer? Because we're here to help our customer. We're not here to just become an efficiency machine at the sacrifice of everything under the sun. That's my response.
Yeah, and that's pretty accurate. You know, and in all fairness, I prefer the self-checkout at the supermarket because I'm faster, right? So but my elderly father doesn't. So he's now stuck in a queue because he has to wait for it because he just can't deal with it. I don't know. I think David's point is very spot on. It's like sacrificing the customer experience on the altar of business profits and efficiency. And while officially the party line would be that that should improve overall experience because then we can spend more money on more choice. You know, if you look at the choice in a supermarket today versus 20 years ago, there's probably more in the single supermarket. There's probably more options. However, there are less stores and there are less choices of which store, and there's less varieties of apple. Like there's more different types of fruit, but there's less of each type, right? Versus the fruit shop, which got, these apples from over here and these ones over there, and depending on which season, which was best, and they'd have the different fruit. The supermarkets now have maybe 40 different types of fruit, but there's only 2 of each type, and they're always the same, and they never change, and things like this. I think it's a really tough balancing act. And, on one side, you don't want to. Capitalism and business profits have driven so much innovation in society that it's very easy to dunk on it. But on the flip side, you've got to see the only reason we have the society we have is because of those pressures and drives to increase efficiency and to improve the society one way or another. I think what's happening, though, is that there is this natural progression and natural pushback back towards a bit more humane communication and relationship building. And hopefully, hell, this podcast has basically been created out of that pushback. It's the Customer Commerce podcast. We are starting to say, hang on a minute, we're creating a whole podcast around this subject. So there must be something happening in the zeitgeist that's pushing this forward for us to then say, well, we'll create a podcast around it. So there is hope, I think. And I don't know what's missing. I just hope that more people take David's advice and have a look at some of those actions and go, does that actually add value to the customer? And if not, why are we doing it? If it's purely profit, well, okay. I mean, sometimes you might have to make that decision. You're running a for-profit business, and fair enough. But take a look, evaluate it. What's the long-term relationship you're building with that customer? I think I said this, and I don't know if I said it on this podcast, or I've been on a few just recently, but I said that I now have no barrier to switch between supermarkets. I used to go to a supermarket. Now I go to any one of 3.
Because you're just treated like sort of a transaction. Is it all become transactional?
There's no relationship.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for me to choose one over the other. My choice of supermarket now completely, solely, and only comes down to which one is closest at the time that I need the blah, right? And there's nothing beyond that. And that's dangerous because, if you destroy, here's a soundbite. If you completely remove your customer relationship, then you don't own the relationship, so you can be replaced.
Amen.
So you got to build that relationship. If you don't build that relationship, then you'll just be replaced, or you can be replaced at a moment's notice. Like, boom, that one's 3 cents cheaper. I'm going to go there. So, moral of the story: build a relationship. And we are not sponsored by San Pellegrino, although if you want to contact us, San Pellegrino, you can. That's totally fine. I will drink one on every podcast.
Yeah, I would have one too. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's make that a go. David, did you have anything to add on that?
I mean, everything that Michael just mentioned is on point. It's, and for those of us that have been around and lived a little bit, it's like, how did something like Amazon come about? How did something like iTunes, Apple Music come about, these various things? Because I remember, I'm a big music lover, and I used to love going to the music stores to go, to check out the the records when there were records, and or the cassettes, or the DVD, or the CDs, etc.
Yeah.
And I love those things. But part of that, and this is the part that I think that those that are very like, we're efficiency, we're gonna trim everything that's unnecessary. You got to look. You got to really evaluate what the heck is really unnecessary. At the point that the people who were in the record stores or the music stores no longer were passionate music lovers like I was, and so I didn't have that interaction. At the point that started to diminish, and they were just sort of, hey, do you have the latest blah, 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 blah? Yeah, I don't know, I think so. That they really couldn't give a damn, right? I mean, it was so obvious. So they were now becoming dispensable. That relationship is becoming dispensable, and now it could easily be replaced by the convenience, quote unquote, of something online like iTunes, Apple Music, or wherever you want to shop. So it's look at what truly is dispensable, and I have no doubts about the fact that the stores that have remarkable customer relations, where they actually recognize you, they go, hey, Michael, good to see you. Yeah, how you been, man? I mean, actually talk to you like that. Where are you going to shop next time you need to go and shop? You're going to go there.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Well, I think in the next upcoming episodes, we're going to kind of give small business owners and businesses in general a lot more effective tools and tips to really help, push that barrier and that idea that consumers have now, unfortunately, that it's kind of gone. It's never coming back, and you can actually be the point of difference now, which is a good thing. So I'm going to actually wrap up this episode because it was kind of a good catch up and a little, nugget, as I like to say, to the upcoming episodes that we've got planned. So thank you so much, guys, for joining. The amigos are back again. And if you're listening and you do have a experience that's occurred recently that you just need to get off your chest, please hit the link in the show notes, realcusstomers.com, CUSS. Leave a voicemail. We will send you a Steve, and we will, talk about it on the episodes to come, and, bring value to business owners again, but real value that's in person, that's personal. All right. We're going to love and leave you. See you guys next week.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you had an awesome time, leaving you with ideas on how to improve your business and wow customers. If you'd like to leave a real customers story, head to the link in our show notes and cuss away. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a review, because that enables us to help more businesses in building real relationships with customers and grow more rapidly. See you next time.